In today's video, we're going to see if it's interesting to buy old cryptos that are currently called dino coin on social networks. We're going to compare the old cryptos from previous bull runs and the cryptocurrencies that came out during the B market or the Bitcoin bull run. I think it's interesting to make a video about this because it allows you to better understand what you're saying, to do the statistics and maybe have better risk management to better manage your portfolio and bigger gains. Well, the video is a bit long, so it will be subtitled at the bottom. Feel free to go to the chapter you like, even if I think that listening to the video in its entirety is more interesting to better understand a little bit about the risk management behind it and especially why you have to make this or that choice. I remind you, I am not a financial investment advisor, so you do your own research on your side. This is my opinion, my research. Of course, you can rely on it, but you must always check behind because you are the only masters of your investment, and if you win, it is thanks to you. But if you lose, it is also your fault. So you should know that the objective when investing in cryptocurrencies is to outperform Bitcoin or BTC with the best risk return. Indeed, if you like, Bitcoin is the figurehead, and in fact, since we are already in an extremely risky market, it is true that if we underperform the least risky in this risky market, well, it is simply that we have messed up a little. It's a bit like people who do stock picking, who take a lot of time on the traditional stock market, to take stocks one by one and who do less well than the benchmark index. For example, on the American market, the S&P 500, there we can say that the benchmark index is a bit like Bitcoin. We see that with its dominance around 60%, it represents on a scale 60% of the cryptocurrency market. It is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies, it has real resilience for more than 15 years, it has its own spot ETF, it is bought by institutions, it is recognized as legal tender in some countries. Bitcoin is a bit like the master, the one that allows you to have a good portfolio base. And for people who bought it around $15,000, it's true that compared to $100,000, we're already on times 7 or times 8, which is still extremely good for a return over 2 years, knowing that the average return of the S&P 500, which is the American market, is around 9 to 10% excluding inflation per year. So I thought that was the first thing that had to be implemented. So what we're going to do in the first part of the video is try to look at how it happened over each cycle. So there you have the very small cycle of 2013, you know that compared to the other cycles we see that there is not a wave but there was still a nice rise. Then we will have the 2017 cycle, the 2021 cycle, which was done in 2 stages in the current cycle, so we will start with the 2013 cycle. So what we need to look at is that at that time there was much less cryptocurrency, so we already had Bitcoin. But as you can see, it was traded with a fairly low market cap, 10 billion, now we are talking about trillions and a price below $1,000. Then we had Litecoin and XRP, which still exist today, but which we will say underperform Bitcoin. And then we had a lot of cryptocurrency that no one knows except the people who were there at the time. So what we need to say is that when we compare 2013 to today, yes, 11 years have passed. But we have a lot of cryptocurrencies that have completely disappeared, and that means that except for Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum Moodle, that is to say keeping cryptocurrencies in the very long term, especially altcoins, that is to say cryptocurrencies other than Bitcoin, is not necessarily a good idea. Now we will look at the second cycle, the 2017 cycle, which had its peak in December. We see that Bitcoin is still there. Then we have the appearance of Ethereum. Indeed, at that time we had a bit of the ICO craze with Ethereum, which was the first ICO. We could buy Ethereum against these Bitcoins and it made an absolutely crazy performance. Then we had strong Bitcoin, that is to say in fact it is a copy of Bitcoin but with a small modification at the code level, so Bitcoin Cash. Then we have XRP, which is still there today, but we can see it, even if it has regained some color recently, it is a cryptocurrency that for 7 years has underperformed Bitcoin, not necessarily a good investment. We have Litecoin, which is still there. And then, it was a bit of the time of Ethereum killers, that is to say cryptos that could be interesting to do better than Ethereum. For example, we had the appearance of Cardano, even if the Ethereum killers really appeared, especially on the following cycle. So there we see Cardano, a new crypto that appeared, IOTA, which is also a new cryptocurrency that appeared but which is now very far in the current cycle. Outside the top 100, we have Dash, which is also outside the top 150 in many cryptocurrencies that have disappeared. Like NEM, like EOS, like NEO, like Classic Ethereum. Many cryptocurrencies that are either very far in the top 100, or that are no longer there at all. And that shows us that we already have many more cryptocurrencies. And especially that most of these cryptocurrencies have underperformed Bitcoin and that it would have been better. Finally, we would have done better to invest in cryptocurrencies a little more shiny on this one. Whereas investing in new narratives such as for example ICOs with Ethereum or even crypto of blockchains that can be interesting like IOTA or like Dash, we would have plus outperformed the majority of the market and especially Bitcoin. If we now take the 2021 cycle, that is to say our last cycle which as I told you was done in 2 phases, there I took the absolute top, that is to say the second top. What we can see is that we still have Bitcoin, still Ethereum which has become a bit like the second cryptocurrency on the market and that many no longer even consider an altcoin. Let's say that it is the one that allows us to launch the altcoin season a bit. And then, we will have the appearance of Binance, March and finally Binance which is the largest current exchanger, that is to say a place where you can buy cryptocurrencies and sell them and make some returns. And in fact, it was at that time that they launched their Binance, a chain on which you could make huge gains in DeFi. Then, we really had the appearance of Tether which had appeared before, but which really exploded in terms of market cap at that time. And then we really had the Ethereum killers with Solana, Cardano, Polkadot, Avalanche too. We also see the same coins that are starting to show their noses. But if you compare 2017 and 2021, we see that there are a lot of new cryptocurrencies, the Binance coin, Solana, Cardano. It has made 2 consecutive cycles. But it is true that often, statistically speaking, a cryptocurrency has a big cycle of increase in mostly time. After it is replaced by the new one. After we also see XRP which is there, but in fact if you look at the gains made on this part for this cryptocurrency, it is still inferior to the new cryptocurrencies and after many new cryptos that have performed well. If we look at the current cycles, we see that we still have Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance, it's still there, Solana is still there, Cardano too, XRP too, but quite simply, these are cryptocurrencies that have still done a lot for Cardano, for XRP, cryptocurrencies that have still done much less well than Bitcoin. Polkadot the same, Terra no longer exists in Crypto.com. A little further, Polygon is still there and then we see that there are still quite a few cryptos that have been replaced or that have fallen back in the ranking. Then we will look at the current cycle so with the cryptocurrencies of finally with their current market cap. So here we see that we have had some modifications with for example the arrival of the Dutun coin with the arrival of SUT from PP, many new cryptocurrencies which are starting to appear, for example Aptos, ICP, with Render, Bitanswer, Caspa, Arbitrum. And above all, what we have to tell ourselves is that often the biggest changes in the top 100 occur at the end of the cycle in the big alcohol herbal tea, that is to say often we have trickle down, liquidity, that is to say that people will first go to Bitcoin. Once they have made gains on Bitcoin, they will go to the big market caps, let's say the top 10 or the top 20 so for example on Ethereum and then they will go to smaller cryptocurrencies before either returning to Bitcoin or taking gains in USDT and even exiting in fiat device. And that's when we have the biggest liquidity rotation and that the top 100 changes completely. Another thing to look at is that it is during the alcohol season that most cryptocurrencies explode. Finally, when altcoins explode, if we look at the altcoin season index, we see we are currently at 49, we have a nice comeback. Indeed, we see that quite a few cryptocurrencies have managed to perform well. Another thing to bring up is that recently we have seen quite a few old cryptocurrencies that have performed well, such as Stellar, such as Dodge. We still have ADA Cardano, we also have XRP, the Crow from Crypto.com, Uniswap, Polkadot Atom, in fact many old cryptocurrencies, what we call dinokins, have performed well in that, we will say that it is a species short-term anomaly, because we saw it statistically speaking at the end of the cycle, we really have a rotation of cryptos in the top 100 and the majority of cryptos are replaced. So for me, there are different things to go back. I think that the Dogecoin performed well because we had the election of Donald Trump and that Elon Musk who we will say is pro-crypto and who especially defends the Dogecoin and pushes it for a while, was elected to a department that is called an acronym, the Doge. And that, inevitably, shed a lot of light on this crypto. Now if we look at the other cryptocurrencies, I think they pumped because there is a short-term bet that was made with Gary Kessler who decided to resign from the Security Commission, and in fact this SEC, it is a bit like the policemen of the markets in the United States. Let's say that they had enormous power and above all that they put enormous pressure on all crypto projects. For example, they attacked XRP, Ripple with whom they remained in court for a very long time. And even if XRP was winning this trial, there was this anti-crypto pressure. They delayed the arrival of spot ETFs enormously, with Gary Gensler really trying to push it back to the last moment. And let's say that it still allows some breathing room for the different cryptocurrencies. For me, there is another thing to look at, is that here we say yes, XRP has worked extremely well in recent weeks, but now we will look at zooming out its graph and we see that since its 2021 high, XRP is flat. Absolutely nothing was happening, and that during this whole period you could have been on new cryptocurrencies that have come out, or even on Bitcoin, and you will have much better. Super trained, you will have super trained XRP. We see that on its lowest points, which were around, we will say, of the 50 cents, we are about on times 3. So it is not crazy either. Now many people say, yeah, Cardano, it's great. We see that Cardano, since it is higher, the same, it does not move. We were around, it is lower of the 30 cents, we are at 92 cents, we are on 1*3, but I remind you that Bitcoin is almost on times 7, so there again, no madness. Stellar, which is the cryptocurrency that has performed the best, the same, we see that it was flat for a while. Well, it went from 7 cents to 44 cents, so it made a big multiple, but still that is a market anomaly. For me, you had to be either an insider or no things. Or really make this bet on the old cryptos by telling yourself that the fact that Elon Musk could be elected more than Gary Gensler could be fired. More than Elon Musk precisely, was there to push the Dogecoin a little, and that Donald Trump was very pro-crypto. We could say, okay, Donald Trump elections equal performance of the old cryptos because XRP and Doge risk pushing. But most of the time, we still see that this is not the case. And especially when we zoom out the graphs, we see that in the end Cardano has not done anything for a while, and that if we were on the at Bitcoin and that we had perhaps sold around $90,000, slightly below $100,000, we could have already made big gains, possibly made such a short term on it. The same for XRP, which has clearly been on a downward trend for 7 years compared to Bitcoin, and which is therefore not worth it. On average, the old cryptocurrencies underperform because of one simple thing. In fact, these are psychological thresholds that are put in the heads of investors that in fact they have already had a bull run. So in fact there you say to yourself, okay, XRP, which is already a big cryptocurrency in the top 10. It was at a maximum of around $3 a half. In the last cycle it is at $2, so it is a cryptocurrency that can't even put its highest points back. In addition, in the meantime there has been dilution with crypto, with new coins that have been put into circulation, so we say to ourselves, go and pass its historical high. It could be complicated, it didn't pass this time, so we risk being stuck around $2. So people say to themselves, here is the crypto, it is around 50 cents, I will maybe X4 to go and get them, I will not necessarily go for it. It's the same for Cardano. We often have psychological thresholds. Here we say to ourselves that going past $3, it might be complicated for Cardano, because there has been token dilution in the meantime, and especially that, people said to themselves, okay, a Cardano. For me it's between $1 and $3. Old investors have this psychological threshold in their heads, and people who do graphical analysis have it too. And that means that we can really underperform thanks to that. Now, for me there's another thing to look at, it's the new cryptocurrencies that have performed enormously in this cycle. For example, we have Aerodrome, which is on base, and if we look at it, arrived in 2024 and compared to its historical highs, we see that we are on 6,000% on times 60, which is huge. If we take Caspa, a cryptocurrency that has worked extremely well, also if we take from the lowest to its highest, we see times 100, even if there it has dropped a lot. Even if we take compared to the current price, we see that we are still on times 70. If we take Injective, another cryptocurrency that has performed extremely well and which is new in this cycle. If we take between the lowest and they arrived during the best CAD, in the meantime we are on times 40. If we take Sui, which is still a slightly larger cryptocurrency and which has reached high prices on the exchangers, we are still on times. We are still here once again on times 40. If we take Tabin and Store, the leading cryptocurrency in terms of artificial intelligence, there I do it by mouth. We are still on times between times 10 and times 20. So what we have to see is that the new cryptocurrencies on the new narratives have made really huge performances, while the dino coins for the moment have done nothing. And if you look at other cryptos, like for example Polkadot, it is literally going to hell, and for me there are really many cryptos to look at. For example, if we take the cryptocurrencies that performed the best during the last cycle, we had ADA Cardano, Arda Cardano, we see that compared to its lowest, for the moment it is not crazy. We are on X4 Max, we underperform Bitcoin, and compared to the news we have not done much. And above all, it must have been a long way of the cross for all the people who had some, because since the highest in 2021 we are going down, or we are lateralizing a cryptocurrency that worked extremely well during the last EGLD cycle, which was renamed Multiversix, so already this renaming has hurt it. We can simply look at the bear market. It's a cryptocurrency that is flat, that does nothing, that has fluctuated around $30. We were hurt around $20, but nothing is happening on these cryptos, it's not pumping. We see that there is still a little bit of volume because it's like a cryptocurrency that is highly capitalized and they have marketing, but once again top performers. So from the last cycle equals cryptocurrency that most of the time has trouble, and in addition they are a little bit in trouble with their running. We can still take another cryptocurrency, the Polygomatic for example, which has been renamed again on this one. They are at the level of a good narrative, the R2, but which for the moment does not work, and what can we say to ourselves? Well, the charter is not exact, because in fact they have redone a new tokenomics with a new token. So we will say it is not the good example, but the same if you look since our end of 2023 it is a cryptocurrency that is only going down. There we have a slight pump, but everything has more or less pumped. What I am trying to tell you in a simple way is that the new cryptocurrencies are on average more interesting than the old ones. And so what we must tell ourselves in a simple way when we invest is simply to start in bear market. When Bitcoin has fallen by at least 50% to make 1 DCA, and we will say adaptive. That is to say that the more Bitcoin goes down, the more I add. And so there it would have made you start to make a drawing at $30,000 to $15,000, it would have made you a price between $20,000 and $25,000, so a good price. Keeping Bitcoin in the period a little hard at the beginning. Then maybe go diger by going to Bitcoin Talk or on different forums to find interesting cryptocurrencies and interesting narratives. And from time to time say, okay, there is a cryptocurrency that is hyped. There is a narrative that is hyped, maybe try to rotate some of these Bitcoins to other cryptocurrencies precisely while waiting for the altcoin season. And we see that the cryptocurrencies that have performed the best in this cycle are new cryptocurrencies that appeared during the market or during this early phase at the CR that have not yet experienced a full cycle, and that most of the cryptos that are dino coins are underperforming. And that even if there has been a little boost in energy, they are still cryptocurrencies. If we zoom out, which over the last 2 or 3 years have really performed very poorly, we arrive at the end of the video. So already do not hesitate to tell me in the comments what you think of this type of video. We do a little more analysis, we look at what happened before, we try to understand, we look at how things are going, and we look a little more at the market dynamics. I will try to adapt the videos. If this is really a video that you like, do not hesitate to subscribe either. It rewards the work I do day by day, and it allows the community to grow. To summarize, in this video, we saw that cryptocurrencies had a huge rotation with liquidity that arrived more on new projects that were on new narratives than statistically speaking. The old cryptocurrencies are dino coin, which were the same. The best performers during the last bull run were already being dismantled in bear market. Because you have to know that all these cryptocurrencies have taken between -90 and -99%. That is to say that if you had 1,000 euros on it, well, you have almost nothing left, and that in addition been there since then they have had a little boost of energy, but we will say that it is the whole market that has performed, but that over the last 3 years you still take a huge slap, and it is a long crossing of the desert. Better to go for slightly shinier cryptocurrencies, and even if you have to do it in 2 parts, we often have. Up to the top of the do up to the new top of Bitcoin. We have a part that goes up there that allows you to see the cryptocurrencies that are strong, the new cryptocurrencies that are in the spotlight. And you can say to yourself, well, okay, there on the last part one saw that arrow on the base worked well, injective Caspa, sway DAO. There you go, you look at the narratives and the cryptocurrencies that performed well, you make a small portfolio of its biggest values by taking the leaders of each narrative. And that will allow you in the vast majority, and statistically speaking, to outperform the old cryptocurrencies. Today's video is now finished. Good evening everyone, and see you next time.